Hi everyone and welcome to your daily oracle guidance. Now, I don't think this present reading is going to be everyone's cup of tea, but regardless, I don't really censor my reading, so I have to say what I see. So then here it goes. The challenge is actually the awakening. And usually the awakening, the judgment or justice correspondent in classic tarot, is a rather positive card in every single manner because it represents a new worldview. It represents a moment of clarity, an awakening. It represents an inner calling that just sources from the very core of our beings. And that's why the symbolism of this card has so very much to do with awakening, regardless of the context, regardless from which perspective. For example, it can be perfectly valid for a very mundane, very earthly thing as, for example, business, when you just become aware of something that you were missing and that changes everything. For example, you become aware of a honest partner and that already is a massive change. Or when you become aware, for example, that a partner is infinitely more valuable than you could ever imagine, and when you become aware of that, you can upgrade everything by tapping into that partner's value. For another example, when you're in a relationship and the relationship is not going that well because there's not too much communication between you and your partner, this awakening, for example, can play out as you somehow, some way, become aware that your partner had problems, childhood problems with communication, and he's blocked or she's blocked, and that already changes everything because you stand from a place of understanding, and with a little bit of work or maybe a therapist, you can easily fix the relationship because love is there and it's only this issue that is preventing you. So this awakening, even though it represents a new worldview, it represents a totally upgraded or vaster perception. It can have a lot of effect on everything. And the same is perfectly valid if we look at humanity's collective awakening, which is already something undeniable. Because the attitudes, the lives, the perspectives, the mindset, the feelings, the emotions of so very many people have changed. And the only thing preventing us that this awakening has already taken place is the lack of unity. But this is exactly the shadow expression, the challenge position, the shadow of the awakening card, the shadow of the judgment. Because when you're awakened, you need to process your own stuff, your own life, your own past, your own karma. You need to find your own life views. You need to find your own philosophies, your own truth, your own lies, your own deception, and all of that. And when someone else kind of dishes that up for you, when you are overwhelmed with instructions, when another person enters the public stage and just exemplifies everything with its own life, like for example, oh, I've been through this and that, blah blah blah, but now I'm so healed and so empowered, and look at me, I'm so successful and money's pouring in, the universe is pumping more money into me than I can possibly spend. Well then, that is the shadow expression of the awakening, because that, if anything, that is not part of the deal. That is what we should never ever do, because then we'll take away the personal element of other people's own unique journeys. Yes, as human beings, we are kind of similar. We can all look at ourselves as a huge brotherhood and sisterhood and all of that. But deep inside our souls, now that's where we're infinitely different. That is where no other being is the same, because we have all different functions, different roles. We have different kind of even spiritual divine history, which has nothing to do with earthly existence, which has nothing even to do when the universe was physically manifested. So all of us are so very unique and distinctive, and that is what we have to embody right now. So unity is only in spirit and not in mind. So basically, if we pump information into other people, well, they do help a certain degree. I'm not saying that they do not heal, that they do not inspire, that they do not empower, but after you healed, after you are somewhat stable on this awakening, then you have to purge, the braces. You have to purge the, crutches off as well. You have to purge the truth of others off of you, even if they had the best intention ever. But if that good intention, if their methodology, if their principles, if their own personal life examples are still alive in your soul, and that is an unhealthy expectation, well, at the last stage of the true awakening, that is gonna be purged off. And when it is gonna be purged off, that will lead to a lot of conflict, that will lead to a lot of turmoil, that will lead to a very, very hard spiritual crisis of inner faith, because you've been running the program of another person. Yes, with good intent, yes, gentle, yes, non-offensive, yes, non-dogmatic, non-rigid and whatever, but it's still not yours, it's still not you, it's still not part of what you have to do. It's part of that person's example, and an example has to be taken just as an example and not integrated into your soul. Because if you do integrate it into your soul, well, then you feed that person, and of course that person is going to be pumped with power, with good fortune, with money by the universe, because you feed your own power into that person, because its example is running in your heart and not your example. So basically, you are just another version of that person and still not you. So the shadow expression of this awakening is that you purged your own dramas and your own stuff, your own obstacles, your own self-victimization. But now, unfortunately, if you were a person who's been heavily influenced by gurus and who has lived the example of another person, well, now you're purging that. Now you're suffering an immense, test crisis of your inner faith, because you are you and you're not that other person. It doesn't matter who you idolize, even if it's Buddha, even if it's Jesus. Jesus is Jesus, Buddha is Buddha. They had their story, they had their example, and now you took the wisdom from it, but your truth is your truth and you're not gonna live their lives. So this is time to purge off everything and just embody who you truly are in your own story. You have to be the hero of your own story, and that hero has to be unique and not just borrowed from any other person's source, even if that source is non-human, even if it's just a Pleiadian extraterrestrial influence or whatever. That is still not you. That is them. That is their way of doing it. That is their perception. That is their truth. You need to align with your truth, and your truth can have assertion in it. It doesn't have to be serenity. It doesn't have to be universal peace. There are black holes in the universe. There are praying mantises in nature. So everything has a role. Everything has a purpose. So if we just harmonize everything forcefully, obsessively, fanatically, well, then we take away everyone's true liberty. Then aren't our spiritual awakening teachings and methods just as bad, just as toxic, just as dogmatic as that of the Orthodox Church, for example? So this is very, very questionable, because when it gets to awakening, well, then we properly awaken to everything, even our own deceptions and even the deceptions of other people's awakening, if that makes sense. And now we get to the opportunity, which is also a rather negative card, the Five of Air, the card of contradiction, the card of forced change, basically. And what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that when you're truly awakened, it's not gonna be bliss, it's not gonna be anything positive, as in feeling wise, because once you hold your truth, well, then you see the world for what it is, and you cannot be happy with that, you cannot be full of joy, because what do you realize when you awaken? You realize your true soul level role that you play in the infinity of time, even outside matter, and that is not an easy thing to process. That is a very hard thing to, accept, to believe in, because the universe is so multifaceted, unlike this 3D Earth, unlike this big chunk of rock which we ride along with the solar system. So it's not going to be serenity or harmony or anything. It's gonna be a big moment of shock when you realize who you actually are, and that is when the true party, so to speak, begins, because then you're just your soul. And what do you do next? Well, some people who are ancient souls, for example, are absolutely not gonna stay here. So for them, they will just realize that their mission is over, and that's it. That it would be futile for them to stay any longer here, because why should they stay? To waste time for to collect gratitude and love from others. They don't need that. They have all the good stuff up there in their worlds where they are. They don't need our mercy, our gratitude, or our whatever. But those people who are destined to be here, who have a great role here after the big change, well, they are not gonna be happy either, because, well, 5D Earth is just a construction site. Nothing is built yet. It is just a blueprint. So basically, the work is just starting. So you better go and exercise, because you are gonna be building it for a lot of years without any rest, without any appreciation. Only your ideals and your divine truth fueling you. And of course, some people are gonna challenge that, and you will have to fight for it. So abandon all hope if you think that you're gonna enter into a paradise or a world of peace or whatever, because that is definitely not going to be the case. You're going to enter into a construction site, and you'll have to build with everyone else. And building is, of course, rewarding. Of course, you're fully immersed. Of course, you're infinitely full of passion and information, and you research and everything you need, but it's not easy. It's not serene. You're not going to rest at all. And you will have to defend your, construction, whatever you're gonna be building. And that represents forced alliances. So even the big soul family and what they say is not gonna be full of harmony. It's gonna be because of necessity, because you just have to defend it. Because when everyone's purpose is the same, well, then it doesn't matter the personal differences. You still have to defend it together. And that means having to tolerate others. That means having to swallow your poison, your rage, your anger, your dissatisfaction. That means having to live expectation free for the rest of your waking life. And that's not easy. So, know what to expect. Expect truth, and not expect fantasy, not expect illusion, not expect utopia, because that is just a trail of breadcrumbs which is going to lead you to a dangerous jungle, for example. For example, you might be a biggest nature lover, the biggest fan of nature, but you're still gonna walk into the Amazon jungle prepared with weapons, because as much as you love nature and whatever, you're still not gonna allow yourself to be killed off by the black mamba or whatever might attack you. You will have no choice but to defend yourself, and you still love nature with all your heart, but it is what it is. And another thing is that yes, you are more or less gonna be alone because the ancient souls are not gonna be there with you anymore. So, the Five of Air represents 2025. That is when the awakening stops, is completed, and you're alone. Basically, you won't have babysitters, you won't have defenders, you won't have anything. You'll just have yourself. And your allies, of course. But your allies are going to be absolutely the same level as you are. You're going to be perfectly equal from every single perspective. Yes, your talents and skills are going to be different and unique, but that will be required for the synergies. So basically, this is when you'll be without babysitters in the world, and you'll have to build that 5D reality which you so much wish. And finally, we get to the resolution part of the reading, which is the justice. And if the awakening is the challenge, the shadow, well, then it definitely tells you that know exactly what you're signing up to, know exactly what you're agreeing to, because soul contracts don't always have to be signed symbolically. When you're a spirit or just a consciousness, they can be done while in matter, while in flesh, while living life as well. So be very careful with what you agree to. Be very careful what you wish for yourself, because if you don't know what the outcome, if you don't know what you wish for, then there's not gonna be a way out when it's done. Or the way out is gonna be the hard way out. So, be very aware, and that is exactly the symbolism of the justice. Be sure that your heart is perfectly balanced with your mind, fire and air, your intellect with your passions, because if you're idealistically just following your passions and not listening to your sense of logic and your rationality, that it is gonna be hard, and maybe the fire of your passion is not gonna be bright enough to help you see you through alone. So be aware that you are gonna need allies, forced alliances. So it's not gonna be just unconditional pure love, it's gonna be also tactics, compromises, mutual respect, having to work with others regardless of your opinions and preferences. That represents true compassion, that represents true understanding, that represents being a bigger person, and it's not gonna be ideal. None of this, the alliance and the soul family and the connections and all people acting as one, that's not gonna be easy by magic. That is gonna be with effort, with your own input, with your own self-discipline, with your own mastery, with your own personal sacrifices. So it's not gonna be a big magical fairy tale, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So you need to be aware of this before you sign the contract, before you agree to this, before you embark on this journey of pain. So basically, the main conclusion of this reading is actually a big warning sign from the universe. Spirituality and everything like that is very lovely, and of course it's blissful and harmonious, because when you have inner peace, life is totally different. But don't fall into the illusion that it's gonna be like that forever, that you won't have to lift a finger ever to preserve that state. No, unfortunately, what it means is that you will have to work on that for the rest of your life while working hard and constructing whatever you believe in and whatever you wish to experience every step of the way, every waking second of your life. So that's not easy. That is not the Buddhist way of doing it, because you are not gonna sit under a tree and meditate for the rest of your life. No, you're gonna be fighting, you're gonna be thinking, you're gonna be inventing, you're gonna be tapping into your ingenuity, and all of that while at the same time holding peace without any help. So this is the real part of the deal. So know what you are agreeing to, know what you are signing up for. Know that it is going to be hard and a big effort, and you're not gonna rest. So don't fall into lies, don't fall into illusions, don't fall into other people's fantasies, because yes, you can manifest. That's absolutely 1,000,000% true. And even if you just wish it very strongly and a big pile of money drops out of the sky, well, that money is not yours. You will have to make the lives of others easier, more beautiful, more supportive with that money, and that is your effort. So you're not gonna enjoy it. And this is how 5D works if that's your main purpose, to step into that dimension or whatever it is. So basically, you're gonna share everything that you have. It's not gonna be how great you are, how wise and talented and skilled and, beautiful and loving, gentle soul you are. No, what you are is what everyone else is. So you have to give up on the me, and it's gonna be us. The more skilled and talented and high class you are, the more everyone else is gonna be like that. So if you're not a person who likes to share everything, including your own worth and value, well then 5D is not for you. And that means that 3D is actually your habitat. It means that 3D is like fish in water for you personally, so don't be deceived. Also, I would like to finish this reading with a very wise speech one of my culture's spiritualists have said once, and they said that, God has 3 different kinds of offspring. There's the people, if we can call them that way, who live their lives always fearing God, and basically that's why they go to church out of fear, out of terror, out of mistrust, because for them God is vengeful. Then there are the merchantiles, the merchants basically, the merchants of God, who are perfectly aligned and in tune with the divine wisdom and the knowledge and karma and all of that, but basically they just offer a service and the universe accepts that service and rewards them as much as they want to, as much as they worked for, earned for, and it's perfectly okay because it is a harmonious symbiosis and it's fine for both parties. But there are the true children of God who are aligned with unconditional, pure love, and those are the holy people. And of course, it is up to us personally what we choose to be. You can choose absolutely anything, but if you choose the life of a holy person, well then, you will have to love the universe and the divine mystery and this existence more than you love yourself, more than you love food, more than you love life, more than you love comfort, more than you love fairness, justice, equality, equity, more than you love your human rights. So once again, be careful what you sign up to, be careful what you choose. Well, thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a blessed and safe day. Bye for now.